It is now time for the final Woman of the Week of 2020. And this week, it's singer-songwriter and YouTuber Emma Blackery. I've been following Emma online for about 6 years now, so basically all of my teenage years. And I've seen her music grow from creating pop-punk EPs to creating a great pop album in 2018. And now she's experimenting with 90s alt-rock sounds. She's also recently moved to the West Midlands from Essex. So I wanted to welcome her and to appoint her as an honorary West Midlandser.
I have an absurd amount of West Midlands pride now. I've lived here a year, and whenever I see Birmingham being the butt of a joke, I'm just like, you want to go? You know, I get so angry. There was an advert by a bank, and a very well-known bank, and they were like, whether you live in the north, the south, the east, or the west, and then they pause and go, or the bit in the middle, and I'm just like, what? I'm from a place where anything above the Watford Gap is northern. I used to say that Birmingham was north, okay? Of course I did, because I'm very southern at heart. But now, as soon as I get comments on YouTube being like, oh, you sound northern now, I'm like, no, I don't. It's terrible.
But I really want to chat to you about, like, your music taste growing up and how music was, like, a part of your life growing up. Did you ever think, like, you'd be in this position now where you're actually like releasing music as a musician?
I always dreamed I would. At first, I very much had this dream that I would be in a girl group when I was like 5 or 6. And then I wanted to be a independent solo artist when I was, about 9 or 10. And then as soon as I got into bands like Paramore, Green Day, Blink-182, I then wanted to be in a band. And I made that happen when I was like 6. I think I was 17 or 18 years old. And they went horribly wrong, both of them. I've realised that it was better for me to just become a solo artist. So at the age of 20, I took that leap and started releasing stuff on Bandcamp, and then started a YouTube channel to accompany it. And now I'm here. I didn't grow up in a musical family at all. Like, my parents are not musical, bless them. But, I got my first instrument, my electric guitar, when I was 12. Before that, I just sang along to records. I grew up listening to Michael Jackson and Madonna, and a few bands like Guns N' Roses. Some things like, my dad liked the Beach Boys and things like that, and my mum was very much like into dance and garage music. So I had a bit of an eclectic taste growing up. And then, of course, you add in the mix of like Spice Girls, S Club 7, Steps. I was a huge Steps fan. Steps were my first concert.
I mean, your music taste growing up quite eclectic. Is it as eclectic now? What are you listening to at the moment? And I saw you posted your Spotify rap list this morning. What's on there?
There's a lot of Hayley Williams and a lot of Taylor Swift. I think Folklore is such an amazing album. I really, really do. Death Cab for Cutie is on there. Tears for Fears. Everybody Wants to Rule the World is my favourite song on the planet. So I'm not surprised that's there. The cover of How Soon Is Now by Tattoo. Because I have plans for that specific song, so I had to listen to the Smiths version and Tattoo's version, and hopefully there'll be a different version next year. Who knows?
Was that an exclusive?
It was an exclusive.
Oh
yeah.
my god!
There's Bieber Doobies on here because I've recently fallen in love with Bieber Doobie's music. Mm-hmm. I think she's fantastic. I'm so glad that there are a lot of bands and artists right now bringing back the sort of alt rock sound of the 90s and bringing it into like the 20s, the roaring 20s. Dodie was on here, and Jar of Hearts by Christina Perri, which. If someone's listening to Jar of Hearts enough for it to be in their top 20 in 2020, you should probably check on them. You know what I mean?
Are you okay, hon?
I'm okay,
someone to call you.
I'm all good. I'm all right, Holmes. I got over it. I'm all right.
I know another one of your favourite women in music is Taylor Swift, because like that massive plaque you've just got of Reputation.
Yeah, I've got two canvases that I had made up, bespoke canvases of the album artwork. I have the one of Lover, but I have sort of had to take that down as I moved house because I don't really have a place for it. And I could put Lover where Reputation is, but nothing really tops Reputation for me. Folklore is amazing, but Reputation is such an incredible album. It's such a huge influence on me and my debut album as well. It's just one of my favorite albums of all time. It should have got a Grammy, as I tweeted the other day.
Do you think maybe one day we can expect an Emma Blackery / Taylor Swift like mashup /
like
all I can say is collab?
Obviously, like You know, if someone was to ask me like who would be like your dream artist to support, it would obviously be Taylor Swift. You know, any given day of the week, I would love to be the support for Taylor Swift one day. I mean, you got to have dreams, right? You've got to have something to aim for. I mean, I've managed to achieve quite a lot in my time, so I'm not gonna take it away from myself. I'm just gonna hold it as a dream. You know, sell out Brixton as a headliner is my main dream, and don't know the rest really. Just apart from support Taylor Swift, but there's quite a jump there, I think.
What is it about Björk that you really love, and this song that you've chosen in particular for your favourite woman in music?
I discovered Björk. She says it's Björk, and she says Björk rhymes with jerk, which I always liked. I discovered her back in 2017, 2018, I think. I think it was around the time I began writing Villains, the album, and I can't remember what song. Growing up, Björk is like the weird woman who did like, you know, It's Oh So Quiet. And that's all I knew about her. And I thought, you know what? I've been proven wrong by so many artists that I've just decided not to listen to for a long time. And I thought, you know what? No, I'm going to get into Björk. She was so in charge of like the compositions and the producing as well. And she's a very, very well-spoken woman. She's a very, very intelligent woman. I love watching like interviews with her. She's just a very in-depth person. The song Hyper Ballad is about a couple that get on really, really well, but only because every morning the woman wakes up and goes to the edge of a cliff and throws furniture and plates and things like that off the cliff in order to like just feel like she's got more control, and then she goes back and then they're happy. I mean what? What the hell? And I feel like that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. It's just very honest and very specific, and it's wonderful.
That's Hyper Ballad by Björk on Gorgeous FM. And Björk is this week's Woman of the Week, Emma Blackery's favourite woman in music. Wouldn't it be brilliant if we got Björk as Woman of the Week one week in 2021? I mean, never say never. And did you hear Emma Blackery actually dropped a little exclusive? She is going to be covering How Soon Is Now by the Smiths on her upcoming album, out in 2021. But in 2018, Emma released her debut album, Villains, and it is really a great pop album. There's some absolute bops on it. I really recommend that you check it out. And I saw Emma perform this album on tour back in 2018, and as we're all missing the live music experience at the moment, I really wanted to ask her about live music and performing, and how she finds it.
What do you want people to take away from your shows and experience and feel at your shows? Because I just find them like so high energy, and I just always just come out like feeling buzzed, you know?
Oh, thank you. Well, obviously that's exactly what I want. I want people to go away feeling like it was an incredible gig, and for that hour and a half or so, they were just having a really, really fun time. But also, I like to think that I create this connection between myself and the people in the audience where just for that hour and a half, everyone feels like they are connected to everyone in the room, including myself, that we're all just experiencing the same thing at the same time. We're all communicating, even if it's not through an actual conversation. I like to feel that everyone feels safe and happy and understood, you know, especially with when I did the Villains tour. Obviously, Villains is a very personal album for me. The whole thing was based around losing friends and going through like friendship breakups and things like that. And that feeling of paranoia of like, you know, is everyone against me? Am I the problem? No, I'm not the problem. Then at the end going, oh, maybe I am the problem. And that's a normal human thing. And I feel like that album was something that people hadn't really done before. Not like a concept album. Loads of people have done that. But the idea where like, you know, songs are so often about love and breakups and, you know, things like that. But there aren't enough songs out there, in my opinion, about like when friends fall out with each other. But yeah, I love the idea that people can just feel like they're not alone at my shows. Like everyone else is connecting in the same way, and you know, and they can leave and go away still feeling that, like that they know they're not the only one emotionally connecting to the music that I make.
I mean, you talked about Villains quite a lot, but for me, Villains was like one of my top albums of 2018, along with Christine the Queens' new album, which came out that year as well. I think my favourite song from the album's got to be Burn the Witch. I'm just like, whenever I want to introduce you as a musician to someone else who hasn't heard your music, I'm just like, put Burn the Witch on, you'll see.
I do love Burn the Witch. I'm very, very proud of it. Looking back, I mean, I've said this before, looking back, like, I wish I'd released that as a final single from the album. I wish that had been released like either the day of the album release or like a month or so after, or maybe around like the tour. But it was something where I just didn't have the budget to do it by that point. Like, the budget had all sort of run out. Money hadn't been spent in the wisest of places. So I just couldn't do it, couldn't make it happen at the time. And then obviously I just moved forward with more music, but perhaps one day I'll do a Burn the Witch video, who knows.
How do you think like your music now that you've released in 2020 differs from Villains?
Villains was really when I started to learn a lot more about production. I started to put a lot more time in to, instead of just submitting like acoustic demos and then trying to tell a producer, oh, I want it to sound a bit like bleep, blip, 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 blip. Villains was when I really first started to produce things myself and produce demos to the point where, you know, some of the stems that are in the songs on the album are ones that I created. But because I learned so much from that, when I moved forward with my EP, My Arms Are Open, the amount of production that I did on that is far greater. I had a lot more, and with that I had a lot more input. I wasn't so afraid to sort of say no to things, or like say and speak up, like, I want this changed, or this needs to be changed, or and things like that, because I started working with a producer that my partner introduced me to, and it's a really, really healthy environment in that way as well. Production is such a joy. Like, seeing these songs being created and seeing every step of it now is really, really great. I think my writing is getting better with every song that I make. Really, I think I'm starting to understand a lot more about composition and like writing structures and things like that. I think my top linings got a lot better. So yeah, you got to celebrate your successes, right?
I really want to play Wolves. So
okay.
Can you like talk about Wolves a little bit probably before I play it?
Okay. Wolves was really created at the beginning of this year, I believe. I started to experience a lot of things that were quite negative online. There was a video made about me, and then from that, people sort of took it upon themselves to try and delve into my personal life. People tried to take advantage of that curiosity by creating rumors that were very false or very exaggerated. And people would jump on those and be like, oh, that someone said it, so it must be true. And there were people coming into my life trying to break through to my personal social media, like unwarranted, that I had to keep rejecting and pushing away. And it became a situation where I felt like certain people had this real like vendetta, like they had this real intention of trying to get to me. And in the end, their pursuits were just, it got so stressful and so upsetting that I wrote Wolves to basically be like, the metaphor is like, I'm running away from these people. Like, I don't want to know. And it's this metaphor of finally stopping, not running anymore, and just turning around and going, all right, come get me then. Do your worst. You know, I've had enough. Do what you need to do. Say what you need to say. So it's really a story about, you know, standing up for yourself, but probably just because it's on the tail end of not having it in you anymore to try and repel people.
Wolves by Emma Blackery, this week's Woman of the Week. And oh my goodness, those vocals as well, how strong her voice has become over these years. Oh, I'm just so proud of her. And as she explained in the last part of the interview, she's not afraid to be honest about the experiences that she's had in the music industry with people who haven't been so kind. And a few weeks ago, Emma posted a video on YouTube explaining how she's coming to terms with working with someone who didn't have her best career interests at heart. And she said that they spent a lot of her money on things for her career which weren't necessary. And she said it caused her a lot of shame, anger and stress. And it's something that Emma's still coming to terms with now. But I wanted to ask her what made her want to tell her story in that way, and how she's feeling now.
It was really just purely because I was at the point of processing everything that happened, where I needed to take it out of solely existing in my mind and make the world and the people who care about me aware of what happened, because I'm aware that, throughout that tough period of last year, a lot changed. My personality was quite erratic. I changed quite a bit because that's how I handle stress sometimes. I've had an audience for so long. I realized I was at the point of the processing and accepting what happened, where I thought I never really explained what happened and why I went quiet, or why this changed, or why people saw changes happen and I just wasn't addressing them. I really wasn't at the point where I wanted to, and then it just reached a point where I felt confident enough telling my story, and also being at the point of, I'm still angry about everything, like, to this day, but now the anger that I had towards just everyone but myself, I was able to sort of take that back a few steps and go, you know what, there are certain aspects where I just wasn't a very good businesswoman, and I did allow this to happen, but at the same time, that's not taking away what an individual did to make me feel like these things were in my benefit. I thought talking about it would kind of help normalize the fact that, you may think, oh, that would never happen to me. I'd never let that happen, because that's what I used to think. And it really can happen to anybody if they detect that you're someone that is willing to give up certain parts of your, control of your life. They will try and take it from you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited for what the future holds with your album next year as well. When you said on the video the other day that you were working on an album, it's not just a body of work anymore, it's an album. What can you tell me about this album? What can you tell me about the album? Can you dish me any exclusives?
Album
what can we look forward to?
As I said earlier, it does have a cover on it. It has 10 tracks. It has a song covering everything that I went through last year. I recorded the vocals for the lead single 2 days ago, which is very, very fun, very, very upbeat tune that I'm really, really happy with. I've got a lot of influences on the album, such as Hayley Williams, Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish. Not features, obviously, just inspirations. Could you imagine if that was the bombshell that I was going to drop? Could you?
Oh my god, I wish.
There's some Carly Rae Jepsen influence as well. It's going to be a real fun album, but the lyrics are very honest and very vulnerable, and very based on things that I've gone through. Can't give out any dates yet, but 2021 is definitely the year of EB2. It's still in the works. They're still recording there's still a few tracks left, but there's more done, I think, now than aren't done. So it's over halfway complete. Everything's in, the track list is all sorted. In fact, I've got it over there and I can't show you. I've got it on a board and I can't show you. But yeah, it's going to be real fun. It's going to throw a lot of people, but in a really cool way, I think. Do
you think you'll be able to tour as well, hopefully, if things clear up? Because I know it's just the worst time to try and plan a tour, isn't it?
If it's possible to do it, I will do it. If we are past the point of socially distanced, restricted gigs by the time that the tour comes around, then absolutely.
I really want to ask you about Blossom, because I've replayed that little snippet you put on Twitter 20 times, and I'm dying to hear more of it. I know by the time this interview airs, it will have come out, but what can you tell me about Blossom?
It's a song that, as I said earlier on, it was a song that my partner and I conceptualized not long ago at all. We really wanted to use the opportunity to, before I start talking about album 2 and start releasing things towards that, I wanted to have one sort of last sort of single where, I could experiment and really just, see what sort of genres I could do. And the alt rock genre of the 90s is a genre that I loved growing up. I always have. I grew up listening to it, and then in college I really went through a big 90s period. There's Smashing Pumpkins, Alanis Morissette, Placebo. With this recent resurgence that's been happening recently, more 90s sort of rock sounding, alt rock indie sound that's happening, especially with female artists, I was like, this is incredible. Why have I not done this already? And I just thought this is the perfect time to experiment and give it a go, give it the old Blackery twist. And it's a song that I wrote not from any specific experience of my own. It doesn't tell a very, very personal story, but I wanted to write a song that was about the feeling of young love, the idea that you can, at the beginning of a relationship, you can get so wrapped up in this other person that literally nothing else that happens during that time matters at all. Just being absolutely obsessed with each other as you get to know each other, and just that physical wanting and that emotional connection you have. It's just a happy, fun love song.
Finally, in true radio style, could you introduce Blossom to the airwaves for Gorgeous FM?
My name is Emma Blackery. You're listening to Gorgeous FM, and this is my new single, Blossom.
That's the new single by Emma Blackery, Blossom, on the Women in Music show on Gorgeous FM. And she was this week's Woman of the Week and the final Woman of the Week for 2020. And what an amazing woman to end the year on. I want to thank Emma for her time. We actually spent an hour chatting, and for someone who's been loving her music for so long, that is an absolute treat. So it was incredible, an absolute privilege. You can find Emma on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Just search Emma Blackery. Now for a little bit more